think the role of an accountant is changing. That means it doesn't have to be just these book smart people who know how to sit exams and can do long form retention of things. And we do have a talent shortage in our industry, and I don't think we do enough to address it to get the best people into the game.
Hi, you're listening to the Bookkeepers Podcast, sponsored by Xero. I'm Jo Wood.
And I'm Zoe Whitman. Join us and our incredible guests for insider knowledge from successful bookkeepers, business experts, and thought leaders.
We are on a mission to build a more confident bookkeeping community. Our bookkeepers are happier, have more freedom, and earn more. Join us every week and we will show you how.
I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Max Whiteley from Dext. Unfortunately, no Jo today, but I feel like we've totally got this. Hi, Max. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. I'm standing in, hopefully auditioning for Jo's part if she doesn't ever return from the dreaded illnesses.
I quite like that idea. I think we should do this. It's like a Max takeover.
I'm not sure how happy Jo would be about that, but we'll give it a go.
Different perspectives. I think, you'll bring something different to it. Max, do you want to start by just telling us a bit about your background and what you do?
Sure thing. So my name is Max Whiteley. I am an accountant by trade, a chartered accountant. Started in the industry around 13, 14 years ago now. I turned 30 this year. Sad times. I was an accountant in practice, started as a sort of an apprentice junior bookkeeper, worked through my exams, my qualification, did the apprenticeship route, and in my last role, I spent sort of 3 years setting up an accounting practice in Liverpool for a London-based company. I grew a team there of like 15 people, which was exciting and fun, super stressful. So I've done quite a lot in such a short period of time, and then decided that practice had drained all the life out of me, and I moved to Dext to work in tech. So I'm sort of got a title of a product domain expert, which sounds quite technical, but effectively just means accounting expertise. So my job is to go and speak to bookkeepers, accountants, find out what they're struggling with, what they want from the product, and how we can help deliver that. So I work between the product team, our marketing team, sales team, and a bit of everything, just to help be the voice of the customer as such.
Oh, perfect. That's amazing. Thanks for explaining that. Max, it's actually National Apprentice Week this week, and you mentioned that you started as an apprentice, and I remember seeing your post on LinkedIn. I'm really curious. I know we're supposed to talk about MTD, and we totally will, but I'm curious because I think there might be people listening to this who are thinking about joining the industry or wondering what their route into the industry is. How did it happen that you became an accounting apprentice?
Something I'm really, really passionate about is the world of apprenticeships. And I mean, there's a week for something every other week these days. It's National Something Week every week, but I think it's a great time to showcase and post about the world of apprenticeships. So I think there used to be a bit of a stigma around apprenticeships, like they were for tradesmen, tradeswomen. They were for, all sort of like manual sort of jobs, things like that. And maybe we're seen as a sort of a lesser route from an educational point to the likes of going to university. I went to quite a posh Catholic grammar school where everything was always about going to university and everything like that. I didn't come from that sort of family. My mum's owned a hairdressing salon. My dad's a self-employed joiner, and they didn't go to university. And there was never really any pressure from home to go and do the likes of university. So it wasn't really a conscious decision at the time. I went and did sort of work experience. I think I was 13, 14 at the time at school. And I just got speaking to some of the team there. And they were like, oh, if you want to become an accountant, did you know there's this thing called a AAT to ACA fast track, which you can actually get qualified as an accountant, as a chartered accountant, a couple of years faster than going to university without any debt. And I sort of went back to school, spoke to them about that. And there was little to no support whatsoever. I would have external people coming in to support, and they were always just about how many UCAS points you can get and how we can feed that into university, even to the point of they had an awards night sort of for ex-students to come back every sort of 2 years to celebrate how they've done at university and stuff. But no one who ever did an apprenticeship or did anything outside of that route would ever get invited back to be sort of celebrated. So I think it was just the whole premise of the school was they were all judged on how well a certain individual does. So for me, I'm sort of I would I would sort of back myself against any other sort of accountant who went the alternative route. I didn't really enjoy school. I'm dyslexic. Didn't really enjoy sort of like sat there just reading long forms of notes and trying to revise and retain information. For me, it was a lot easier for me to get stuck in and actually talk the talk and actually walk the walk, should I say, and get involved in that. And that's how I prefer to learn. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of exams in the accountancy route, whether that's just AAT, ACA, ICAW, SEAM, whatever it is you're going to be doing. They are tough, and I struggled my way through them. I won't say it was an absolute breeze, but I was able to become a chartered accountant, earn some money along the way, have no debt, and also get more experience. And then also on the flip side, as I sort of progressed through my career, and I was lucky enough to be in a hiring position, of when I was hiring people, I started to find that people were more desirable to me if they had done an apprenticeship. So if I had sort of two people, let's pick them both at 22 years of age, it's like the typical coming out of university sort of age, 21, 22. One of them has done an accountancy qualification at university. They've got loads of exemptions from their ACA qualification. So within about 2 years of them working for me, they could be a qualified accountant demanding sort of anywhere between 35 to 45,000 pounds, or someone who's done an apprenticeship who's been doing it since they were 16. They're also 22. They've also had a few exemptions from the ACA because they've done the AAT route, but they're at sort of similar stages now. So within 2 years, they would also be demanding a salary of 35 to 45,000 pounds. However, they've got 6-7 years experience in the role, not just from a technical standpoint, but also from like the soft skills of how to deal with people, how to work with a team, how to do everything else that comes with being a good accountant and an advisor, because the role of an accountant is transforming. We're not just about tax rules, and half the stuff I learned at college was not sort of relevant really to what I do, especially in the small business point of view. Like that, the exams are structured there for top 4 auditors, and for how they succeed. And so for me, like, I think the boards could do a lot more to actually make people better accountants, as such as not just be able to learn information, cram it in and regurgitate it. Like for me, like I said, I only found out I was dyslexic with one exam to go.
Wow.
So I grinded through all my exams. It was Darcy, who was like a manager that I used to work with, was like, Max, no offense, but like every email you send me like this, like your spelling's like off, like things are back to front. And I was like, oh, it's always been like that. And it's never really affected me, because if I know something's going like externally, or I would always like proof check it 7 times before it goes out. But if I'm just like rushing around internally, like things would pick up. And it was raised at school, and it was like, what do you get in your grades? A's and B's, right? Okay, you're fine, move on. But anyway, so I sort of like did that dyslexia test, and I ended up getting it like additional time in my last exams. And from going from like either scraping an exam or failing an exam, I went in one exam. It was probably the easiest exam I've ever taken, which was supposed to be the hardest exam, just because I wasn't having to regurgitate information or read long form pages of information. I remember when I first started the exams, I would just sit there. I'd look at like 3 pages of documents. I'd read the first paragraph and I think, oh, like none of that went in. Like, let's go again. Before you know it, I'm starting to answer a question before I've even read the question itself. And for me, like, as an accountant, you have a duty of care, professional competence and due care, which is one of the ethics that they will test you on, is like, if you told me to consolidate a group set of accounts for this company who's trading in 3 different locations, they've got all these different standards, and you're asking me to do that in an hour, like, you would never do that in practice. You wouldn't, that isn't being an accountant. So for me, I think there's a lot that can be done to make it more inclusive. But because the fact that accountants now are business advisors, a lot of tech is doing the crunching for us, and you need to be able to analyze that data, but it's not just about the data. So if you are my client, Zoe, like for you to get the most out of my service, I need to ask you the right questions to understand what it's you're trying to do, what else is going on in the business. Are you looking to hire more people, get a bigger office, or things like that? And it's a bit more like the role of a small business accountant now is that of a business advisor. You need to be able to advise on marketing strategies, sales strategies, things like that, and a bit of a more wider business acumen. So for me, that comes from, having some skin in the game and being around more businesses, and the more businesses you come across, you see things that work, you see things that don't, and you can advise sort of on that forefront. So I know I rambled on a lot there, but I think that's sort of why I'm passionate about it. I think the role of an accountant is changing. That means it doesn't have to be just these book smart people who know how to sit exams and can do long form retention of things, and you can sort of take it to a different place. And we do have a talent shortage in our industry, and I don't think we do enough to address it to get the best people into the game.
Oh my gosh, I love this. This is amazing. Do you know what, Max? I was a girly SWAT at school. So I'm one of those book smart people you talk about. And yep. But like crossing the road, it's a real challenge. What I really learned, like I was good at school, GCSEs were great. Then I chose things that I felt so I think what you're talking about, right, is like there's a class divide here that is created by expectations of what school should mean. And I remember being in going to sixth form, and after sixth form being pushed in the university route, and just to say I dropped out of uni after a year. I spent all my student loan on things like going on snowboarding holidays, and then I had to pay my loan back. But I dropped out of uni and I got a job as a trainee accountant, which taught me on the job how to do things. And I was able to buy a house when I was 19, and my friends couldn't do that. And that was an important part of what I wanted to do. So I'm really grateful for that. And they don't do this anymore, which is really sad. But the ACCA used to do a partnership with Oxford Brookes, so you could get your degree. I got a degree in applied accounting. I got a first. I definitely wasn't on track for getting a first when I was at uni for that year I went. But it was because I was good at exams. So I was good at my ACCA exams. And then that was I paid £50 for my degree. It's kind of, I don't know if it was exactly that, but I had to do a dissertation. But it was a very, I did my accountancy exams, and then I did that, read some books, wrote a report, I did some spreadsheets or something. So there are other routes, and I think people have to know that. But I think that there's this thing that happens at school, or certainly when I'm a lot older than you, Max, just to say, but being 30 is actually really good. When you're at school and you're pushed into this vocational route, which for me was NVQs and stuff. You get people who chose the NVQs and things like that, and then you get people who were pushed into the A-level route. And then if you've got if you want to go to university, and I'd be interested, anyone who's listening to this, I'm really curious, let us know in the comments how you feel about this. Because I didn't come from a background where anyone in my family had gone to university either. So my family did not respect university as a choice. It was who the hell do you think you are, going to uni thinking you're all so high and mighty, which was really a lot of the reason I dropped out as well. I didn't have that sort of support. But because I was choosing to go to university because I thought it was the right thing, because my school was saying it was the right thing, it also meant I chose A-levels that actually weren't. I chose maths A-level, which I'll admit publicly, I got a D in my A-level maths. I found A-level maths very, very difficult. I cried in every lesson, but I didn't think it was an option to not to do it, because I thought to be able to be good at university and have a business related job, I need to have maths. So I'm going to make my life hell for the next 2 years so I can get this A-level, because that's what everyone says I should do. Whereas actually, my husband always talks about how school should be like a strengths finder, where you work out what everyone's really good at, and then you can kind of funnel people into the things they're going to really excel at, rather than feeling like you have to choose a career because it's your way out of it's your way to create social mobility or whatever. And it's just so interesting, the routes people go down. You don't have to do it the way you think. And actually, exactly what you said, the people who have business awareness are going to be so much better in business, because they understand conversations, the soft skills, the environment that businesses are working in, the opportunities, the threats. I left uni after a year. I didn't even know what a journal was for. I went into a job and I didn't know how to use a spreadsheet. That was not useful.
Yeah, and I've hired people. Last role we hired someone who was a manager at Millie's Cookies. She was one of our best accountants after a couple of years. I paid an estate agent, people who just had general like great people skills and knew how to manage themselves, manage time and everything in between. So I don't think there is a single route. I always think so. I really regretted not going to university when I was about 18, 19, and all my friends started to go to university. And I was like, I didn't really understand what being an accountant was. I was a true sort of apprentice, scanning things in, getting butties, doing all that sort of stuff. And I didn't really sort of like understand what I was doing. I was like, oh, wow, could I really do this for another 50 years? And sort of didn't. And I did feel like because I'd not done A-levels or gone to university, I'd sort of like pigeonholed myself. And the further I got into it, I was like, I had this sort of no real escape to change anything here. So I do get that thing of like, do you really know what you want to do at the age of 16, 18? Probably not is the answer.
As bookkeepers and business owners ourselves, we love Xero, cloud-based accounting software right at your fingertips.
Xero's simple, intuitive interface makes managing finances a breeze. No more number crunching or late nights. With Xero, you can focus on what you love while it takes care of the rest.
Ready to simplify your financial life? Visit Xero.com and start your free trial today.
I am also a firm believer in that if you try hard enough and at anything, you'll be able to sort of create a passion in it. And I think that's what I did, and sort of like try to understand the why I do what I do, which is to help small business owners like my family all were. And when I sort of understood that, I was like, oh wow, it's quite like an empowering sort of thing that we do. A few other points just on that in terms of like what I think the sort of industry can do is one for me is like I worked at a big corporate firm of accountants in my second role, just because I felt like I needed to mix it up. It was at that point where I was sort of like 6 years into my apprenticeship where I was like, I need to mix this up and try and find some interest here. And I remember failing like a couple of exams straight away and getting like a final warning at work straight away. And because I was good at my job role, and I was good in the role, like the directors there would be like, oh yeah, it's just like a formality. It's don't worry about it. Obviously nothing's going to happen, but we just have to do this. It's company policy. And then like a letter will come through your front door when you're living at home with your mum and dad with like a final warning. It still says a final warning on the letter. And I know all of the big accountancy firms do that. And I'm not sure that's gets the most out of the employees, to be fair. But I think
you're trying to like put people into a very I think business is great when you've got all sorts of perspectives on it, and you need people with all sorts of experiences and who bring different strengths to the table. And what education and probably accountancy exams are trying to do as well is like pigeonhole you into a very specific structure that actually, well, you said we're going to be business advisors, like I've never done a set of international group consolidated accounts in my whole life, despite having trained on them for months to pass an exam. So like actually what is in the exams, I don't know if it's really setting people up for like the reality of being in practice.
Yeah. And you can't be an accountant if you've got no clients as well. So does anyone ever talk about sales, or does anyone talk about anything like that, or like actually running the business and working out your own profit margins and whatnot? So there's a lot that can be done. I mean, I was like 21 and I was bringing in work to the company. I might have failed an exam, but I was probably a lot more valuable than everyone else around me at the time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's got to change. Like there needs to be change, doesn't there, to make the profession sort of ready for the future, because AI is going to change everything, so.
Yeah. Technology is the best thing people are. That's what I always say. But...
Yeah. Right. Well, let's talk about technology then, because we've got to talk about making tax digital. So assume I know nothing, because someone asked me, we were talking about this yesterday and with another software provider, and we were talking about, is the community prepared for MTD? What's the conversation? And I said, to be honest, we're not having much conversation about it right now. We did a few years ago, then things got parked, and then we kind of left it, and now it's really soon on the horizon. And I think there's probably quite a bit of burying your head in the sand, not quite sure what it looks like, not really quite sure what everyone needs to be doing. So I'd love like your view from Dext on like what's coming, when's it happening, what do we need to know, and how can we be prepared?
Yeah, I think the reason that people are not having the conversation is because they get a little bit bored of HMRC and think that nothing's ever going to happen. They were given a date, it got delayed again, and it happens. And I think some people, like I've asked this question to hundreds of accountants and bookkeepers at one of our Dext roadshows about who thinks it's still not going to happen in next year, and half the room still think that it's not going to happen. But what I would say is we work extremely closely with HMRC, and it is going to happen. Like MTD VAT eventually happened, MTD income tax and self-assessment is here as well. So effectively what it means is that in April 26, MTD for income tax used to be called MTD ITSA. They now refer to it as MTD IT. Don't know why they changed that, but just to make it a little bit more complicated, comes into effect. So all sole traders and landlords who turn over more than £50,000, and that could be a combination of sole trader and landlord income, but if it's over £50,000, you are sort of mandated for MTD for income tax. And what that means is you have to there's no longer, you get to the end of the year and you type your figures into HMRC's website, we're saying how much you've earned, how much you've spent and whatnot. Now instead you have to do quarterly submissions. So every sort of quarter that goes past, you have to do a submission. So for the first 3 months, you'll do a submission. 3 months later, you'll do a submission for the 6 months as like an accumulated submission. Then you'll do 9 months, 12 months. And then once you've done your 12-month submission, you then do another submission, which is like a finalization, effectively, to tie up all of the loose ends and submit as that final self-assessment throughout the year. So instead of there being one filing for you, the bookkeeper or accountant, you're now having to file effectively 5 times for your clients. So it is a lot more work, and we need to make sure that we're utilizing the world of tech. And when it comes to April 27, that barrier will not be £50,000 worth of revenue. It will go down to £30,000 worth of revenue. And there's talks of lowering that again after that. So effectively, a lot of your clients are going to become mandated for making tax digital for income tax. Again, that comes in from April 2026. So for me, the best time to start talking about that is exactly right now. So we've just finished the tax year. We've just done all of your last minute returns and whatever. And now we've got February and March before the new tax year starts. Okay. Obviously, we're not having to do these reporting till April 26. However, you need to sort of manage the whole change management piece, and you've got to get these clients using the technology for you to be able to do these reports by that time. So for me, if it was up to me, what I would do is give them a year of upfront sort of getting used to the software, not really chasing them too hard, and more around education and showing them how to use these features. And then by the time it comes around, there's not going to be much change for them. They're already used to using all of the tech. They just keep sending stuff in into the tech, and they go from there, and they'll have a much smoother experience, and you'll be able to provide a lot more value for them. However, there is going to be a few people in this industry, in my opinion, who will, because they think tech is doing the job for them, like, for example, Dext, which I'll explain in a second, they won't put their prices up, and they won't they'll try and compete by doing MTD income tax and doing 5 filings for the same price they historically would do 1 for. And I think that will be a little bit of a mistake, or in fact, I think it will be a mistake, and you can try and compete with those people on price, but eventually, they won't be making profit margins, because even though we will be collecting all of your information in real time, we'll be doing the reporting in real time, and the tech will genuinely change the game. And for it, there's still going to be emails back and forth every sort of quarter. There's still going to be things that you need to sort of respect your time and do so. So pricing structure is something that I think needs a lot of consideration, and don't be afraid to sort of lose a couple of clients who don't want to play by the game, because they can go somewhere else, they can get a cheaper service, and effectively they're going to end up with more fines and things from HMRC when these accountants completely overload themselves with work. But yeah, so what can Dext do to sort of help, and how can Dext help effectively? So we think that the biggest problem for people doing tax returns for sole traders and landlords is getting the information in. We always get used to the shoe boxes in January. The tax year ends in April. We keep chasing them, and they send everything in absolutely last minute. We also know that if you try and put them on things like Xero or QuickBooks or Sage, then it's like £30 £500 a month or something like that. And, that's really expensive, like £400-500 for just software before they've even considered a tax return, which you were previously only charging £250 for, is quite a lot for a client to be able to deal with. So Dext comes in right at the sort of lower end at £2.50 per client per month. And it addresses just that main issue there. How do you get your information from your clients to you in real time throughout the year, so you're not sort of chasing them? And effectively what it does is, if you haven't used Dext already, there's multiple methods to get something into Dext. Your clients will have an app, so they can take pictures on the go, whether they're, entertaining customers, their fuel receipts, wherever, anything sort of like receipt based, they can just take pictures on their phone. You'll have a email in method, so they can have a personalized email, so they get any bills or receipts in, they can forward them across via email, or they can go one step further and tell their suppliers, next time you send me a bill, CC this email address in, and then your client isn't doing the bookkeeping, but their supplier is doing it, if that makes sense. We have a auto fetch system where you can give Dext your login details for things like Amazon or eBay, and every time a bill gets put into your portal, Dext will grab it out and start to extract that information for you. Or you can just drag and drop from your desktop. You can create sales invoices in there, so you don't need to have a Xero QuickBooks. This Dext Solo is a standalone solution where it collects all of your information in real time, and you can report on it from there, and you can file everything directly to HMRC as you see fit. So
Nice.
super useful, really easy to use.
You can file straight from Dext.
You can file straight from Dext. So Dext is now an approved MTD solution. So I'll sort of explain like three sort of methodologies that I sort of often talk about when I talk about Dext Solo. So I think personally, for example, I think you should use Dext Solo for absolutely all of your self-employed clients, not just for the ones that have a certain turnover, because if you're doing different procedures for different people, it's quite hard to manage. If you have all of your self-employed clients in one solution doing one thing, I know it's obviously there's more licenses there, and I'm saying that from a Dext employee point of view, but with my sort of practice head on, I would have everyone in there. One, because you're collecting their information in real time. You can also advise them in real time if they ask a question of anything, because you already have that information there in front of you. But also it's going to give you a much less of a headache in that January window as well. So I would get everyone to go through there, and effectively what happens there, if they're not mandated for MTD and you're not sending it through to the MTD portal, you can just export that summary into Excel at the year end, and you can type it up into HMRC as normal, if you will.
Yeah.
Then we've got the full end-to-end, where Dext can collect all of your information, sales, costs. We connect your bank feed from your bank like you would expect, and it becomes like a mini Xero, Sage, Free Agent, or whatever you want. And within there, you can match your bills off against your bank statements, everything like that. And then you can do your quarterly filings in Dext to HMRC and your annual summary within HMRC. Then the only thing that's a little bit of a downside is Dext is obviously not the most all-single dancing tax software. So if you needed to do something that was like a bit more complicated at the year end, such as splitting your spouse's personal allowance, or you were adding some pension contributions in there, or something a bit more complicated that you would like a tax software to do. This is where I see a lot of our bigger partners and accounting practices and bookkeeping practices using, where they will already have a procedure that they do their tax returns in. So they may use Xero Tax, they may use Iris, if you will, Tax Filer, or something, Tax Calc, or whatever that may be. Dext can do the quarterly filings throughout the year. And when you do those quarterly filings, they get sent to HMRC.
Okay.
And then when you come into your tax software at the year end, that will also connect to HMRC and pull back those quarterly filings. So then you can just make any adjustments over the top and then get them filed. So for me, obviously, you would have I look back at when I worked at Hacker Young and like a big sort of corporate firm. They had a tax team and they had a bookkeeping team. And I was sort of effective in that cloud bookkeeping team. And if I was to go to that tax team and say, right, you need to start using Dext, training all your clients how to use it, that is like a massive change management piece. So for me, yes, it's a tax piece, MTD for income tax, but who's the best person within your practice to be able to do that job role? And for me, it's that cloud team, that bookkeeping team, who have been used to training people in the world of Dext and Xero and whatnot, and they can roll out the training, do all the bookkeeping effortlessly, and then at year end, they just say to the tax team, you don't have to wait till January for the bag of receipts to come in. All you need to do is connect your tax software to HMRC, pull it down, do any adjustments you need, and then it's all well and done. So Dext can do everything, but is that the best solution for you in your practice?
Nice. And there's probably a piece of work for everybody to go through and look at, like, maybe a list of your clients and like what size are they and what solution are they using at the moment and what would be the best fit for them now, and then move them group by group over. Can I ask you about, I got loads of ideas. Like one of the ideas actually is like, you could be running workshops about this for the next 12 months as well. Like there's no one here, like we're not seeing people talking about MTD at the moment. So there's an opportunity for any bookkeeper or accountant listening to this to start becoming the go-to guru on this topic. And you could do that by running workshops for your existing clients and, you know, newbies as well, because everyone needs educating about this.
Yep.
What about pricing then? You mentioned about, you know, people who are going to just do the 5 filings and they're not going to charge anymore, which obviously not with the workload is changing, everyone. So you do need to price for the workload changing. How are you? Do you have any thoughts about pricing? Are you having conversations with any other firms who are like planning to price this in a certain way?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't go out there and play your hand straight away is what I would say on this. I would try and, like you said, exactly there, sort of segment all of your clients into, right, who's going to be mandated first? They're the ones we need to talk about, and sort of like, how do they currently send information in? So let's get rid of the easy ones first, the ones that maybe do send things over email, digital, and they're a bit more forward thinking. Let's look at them first. And then, you know, try and price, you know, fairly based on that. I don't think you're going to get away with charging 5 times the amount for the 5 times of filing, but you're going to have to say, right, okay, you know, I always say, like, you wouldn't ask a plumber to come into your house and tell him he has to use your tools. So as you know, you are their trusted advisor, they will listen to you, and just say it with a bit of confidence and don't back down. You know, this is happening, unfortunately, like there's no way around it. We've analysed all of the best tools in the market, and we think the best to use is Dext Solo or whatever it is you may be using. And unfortunately, that's going to come at a cost. It's only £2.50 a month, but just so you're aware, we'll give you training on this. And then the service is going to be based on this. And if you can, I know timesheets are a bit outdated, but try and work out the output. Try and you know, get a sort of a bit of an understanding as time goes on for that first wave of clients that come through, and try and do it from there. But I wouldn't say going cheap. If every single client of yours is saying yes and they're happy with it, then you probably are too cheap. You want to be coming across some difficult conversations here and people leaving, and that's a bad thing.
Also, you know, because there are these quarterly touch points now, you're going to have more queries. So if you just think about like email and admin related to that, and also phone, I was speaking to a bookkeeper this morning, and she was like, a client called me and they were on the phone with me for 45 minutes. I normally only spend about an hour a week on their bookkeeping, but that obviously I'm not charging for that extra 45 minutes. That just shows, you know, we're more likely to have more conversations as we're training people and getting them ready. And then they're going to start seeing stuff on the TV and think, oh my gosh, does that mean me? Am I doing it? Is my bookkeeper supporting me? And they'll, you know, the cautious ones are going to want more reassurance. So we need to factor that in as well, because like you say, it's a change management, and you need to be available and not like resenting giving your time to people. So if your pricing is right, you can give people a proper level of support. The challenge comes when you're not pricing it properly and you haven't got time.
And it's how you position it to them as well. And like, what is the why of this process? Yes, legislation has forced the hands of the accountant bookkeeper to make this change. But, you know, for you as a sole trader, it's not going to be like, find out how much tax you're going to pay in 10 days. Like, now you're going to know way in advance. You're going to know how your business is performing. You can see whether your company's making a profit or a loss in real time. So you're not making that real adjustment. And this is the new process of how we're going to do things, and this is just how it is.
It's an opportunity. Like, I can give you better information. Like, actually, as frustrating as it might be to pay more, I know you've got goals for 2025 or 2026, and you're planning to do this. Now we're going to work in this way. That means we have this data in real time, and I could be checking it when we have that call every quarter. I could be talking to you about what your next plan is, or for the next quarter, or we can review your, I know, KPIs or your profit or whatever. It's an opportunity.
it's also a great opportunity in terms of like winning work. And that's another reason to start now. Like in 12 months time, they'll be chatting to the mate at the pub, classic, my accountant does this, my accountant does that. Have you heard about MTD yet? So, I've been on an app for the last year. We're sort of like, we're already ready to go. There's no issue here. And you will win work by being sort of front runners in this game, because a lot of accountants are just ignoring it at the moment. So yeah, get ahead, price correctly, and yeah, sort of work out, in terms of just your time, like it's probably going to be an hour, half an hour minimum every single quarter by just logging in, reviewing 10, 15 invoices and filing that to HMRC. So whatever an hour of your time is, then let's price it properly from the off, and get it done.
Nice. Thanks, Max. That's really helpful. How can people find out about Dext Solo, and should they contact you? Who's the right person to speak to?
Yeah, you can definitely reach out and contact me. If you follow me on social media, LinkedIn, I post a lot of content about Dext Solo. Also another head at Dext who's worthwhile, who's very much in there with HMRC's Paul Lodder, who's my boss. He's definitely worth a follow and a look. There's also some, other great people in the industry. Paul Applin, who's like a legend in the tax space. He's definitely worth a follow. Sam Wood from HMRC. He is sort of heading up a lot of the MTD tech side of things. So definitely worth a follow for them guys. Keep an eye on the webinars for Dext. Like Dext did a webinar yesterday all about MTD Solo and Dext. But if you want to find out a little bit more about them and see what's what, then definitely give me a shout, and we can definitely put you in the right direction.
Perfect. Oh, thank you so much. Really enjoyed that conversation, and thanks for sharing your journey as well. It's really inspiring. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Bookkeepers Podcast. Take care. Bye.
Sorry.
You've been listening to the Bookkeepers Podcast, sponsored by Xero.
Check out our YouTube channel. Join our community, the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club, on Facebook. And if you love what we do, please rate and review this podcast. See you next time. Bye.